My mother was blackmailing my husband. Yeah, she was trying to take all his money so she could buy luxurious items, handbags, a new car, a new luxury apartment, you name it. Well, what could my husband have done that made my mom want to do this, and why I'm despising both of them? Well, let me tell you. I've been married to my husband Luke for 5 years. The first 2 years of our marriage were full of bliss, happiness, and joy. Luke was the love of my life, and the only one I envisioned a future with. We'd been college best friends, and we decided to take our relationship to a notch higher, when we realized that the feelings we had for each other were way more than friendship. Luke met my family, proposed to me, and we got married. For these 2 years, we did everything that we enjoyed together. I was not much of a sports fan, but Luke loved football, and I always made sure that we went to see his favorite games together. I, on the other hand, was such an insider, a romantic person. I loved dinner dates with scented candles and roses. Luke knew this, and he ensured that we went on dates as often as we could. He surprised me with flowers, new dresses, and complete makeovers most of the time. We ate out, played games, had goofy moments, and of course had intense moments of making love. You may wonder why I'm going into all this detail. It's because it's vital to know why I'm sharing my story with you today. My heart's broken, and I know that some people would think this is cliché or just another story to get the attention of the public. But it honestly is not. I wish it was a movie, but no, it's not. This is my life. Luke and I had a great beginning. We started well. Everyone, including my friends and his work colleagues, envied the kind of relationship that we had and wanted the same thing for themselves. Luke was my perfect Prince Charming, and I was his beautiful princess, until things began to change and everything began to go downhill. In the 3rd year of our marriage, I began to notice tiny changes in what used to be our routine. Doing the things we loved and would usually do together, it became a problem for us. Our date nights and movie day nights became, so difficult to attend. I would implore Luke to carry out an activity with me, and all I would get was excuse after excuse. At first, I thought it's because his work became demanding, and there was a lot that needed to be done. I wanted to be a good wife and an understanding partner, but we missed our routine the first month, and then the second. And then when we missed it the 3rd time, I began worried. I called Luke and told him that we need to talk. I told him that the last few weeks have not been great for me, and I thought that we were losing touch with ourselves and our commitment to one another. I remember that Luke had simply smiled at me that day and said it was not so, that I was simply being paranoid because he spent more time at work and less time with me, compared to the time we had initially. I just let it slide again. I tried to be understanding, but after 1 year passed and we had not gone on any dates, it began to get to me. This continued and extended to the next year, and we're in our 5th year of marriage, and my suspicions are only growing. Luke was spending more and more time away from home, and I was lonely. We had planned that we would get stable enough with our careers, and we would even think of starting a family, having children. We wanted to give ourselves a 5-year window before we brought any kid into this world. By our 4th year, I knew that that would be very difficult to achieve since we were spending less and less time with one another. Well, at some point I thought that the issue was with me, that I was probably driving him away with one character or the other, and I spoke to my friend Candy about my fears, about how my marriage was turning out, and she said something that I struggled to accept and believe. Candy told me that afternoon that she thought Luke might be cheating. Well, I found that hard to believe and shut her up. I was hurt that she could even think that way of my husband. We all had been friends together in college, and she was well aware of the type of person that Luke was. The suggestion from Candy strained our friendship, and I chose not to keep the communication between us going. I felt betrayed, I felt toyed with, and I did think about the idea that she could have been jealous of me because she was still single, had no man in her life. What if she said that because she wanted us to break up and have Luke for herself? This was all on my mind because I really could not bring myself to imagine that Luke would ever cheat on me. So I discarded Candy's words. And I tried to work on myself. I tried to understand everything. Luke's tiredness every day, his inability to be intimate with me most nights. I summed it up as being just trying a hard time, and I only needed to be the supportive wife that he truly needed. Luke would tell me from time to time how he was grateful that he had me and how thankful he was that I was supportive. Well, our dry, uneventful relationship continued, and I tried to distract myself with other things while I suffered emotionally. I believed so much that time would pass and we would go back to our spark, but oh, was I wrong. Just this week, I discovered that Luke had, been cheating. He was cheating on me. All this while, I was being the good wife, trying to understand him, trying to be the strong woman by his side, only for me to find out that the 3 years had been a lie. He's a cheater. How did I find out? One day he got back from work early to change for a meeting which he said that he had to go to. Well, that was a lie, because he was preparing to go have dinner with another woman. He was in the bathroom and his phone rang. Normally, I would never answer his calls, but on this particular day, I had a hunch just to pick it up. So I picked up the call and the first thing I heard was, "Baby, I've been waiting on you." I hung up the phone immediately and stared at it, finding it difficult to believe what I just heard. I deleted the call history, replaced the phone, then put it back where it was and walked out of the room. Luke came out of the bathroom, got dressed, and gave me a goodbye. I kept my cool and allowed him to leave without saying a word. I'm full of hurt and anger as I type this because my commitment to 5 years has been a waste and I don't even know where to begin from. I've been with only Luke and not with any other man. Candy was right. I'm ashamed to admit it, she was. What do I do? Do I go talk to Candy? Should I confront Luke right now? I'm so broken. What's up, everybody? Mr. Reddito here. We have 2 comments to check out before we hop into update number 1. Comment number 1's come from Janet1513, and she says this. Confront him. I have to commend your bravery for coming out to share this. He must be such a sick person to think that you would not figure things out. Bide your time, confront him, and let him know that you have a right to be treated respectfully. Comment number 2 from Servio12. This is yet another woman wailing to the public about an issue that she should have handled privately. I don't believe a single word that you said. Women are always full of suspicions and never get things right. You're annoying. And, of course, jumping to conclusions. Update number 1. It was tough for me to keep being mute and to act like nothing happened and that I did not know all about Luke's cheating adventure. Calling Candy to speak with her is not yet an option for me, as I truly can tell how that she would react. All because of Luke, I've ruined our friendship, and she may never forgive me, and I'm not prepared for this convo. Neither can I bear it. Well, I decide to let 2 days pass before deliberately engaging Luke like I normally would. I told him about how the spark in our relationship was dying, and how I did not know if I could keep up with the way things were going. I decide to use this method, just to see if he would look me in the eyes, yet again, and lie to me like he normally did. I hope for some reason that my suspicions were wrong and he would kiss away my doubts, apologize for neglecting me all these years. That we would finally make up and I could assume that called to be a work colleague who was simply playing a joke with him. But every little glimmer of hope slipped away as he curved his lips in the same manner and said, "Darling, you know how work is." And the next thing he did was stand up and head out to the door. I stayed alone and cried my eyes out that day. I was abandoned, I was hurt, I was betrayed, and I deserved none of it. I finally got a hold of myself, freshened up, and decided that I no longer deserved to be treated like dirt. Not by Luke, not by anyone. I was going to confront him and have him pay for even attempting to cheat and play a fast one on me. Luke came back late in the night thinking everything was just the way he had left it. Great house, a nice dinner, a gentle, supportive wife, but he got a surprise. The first thing I did was not make him dinner. Well, if he was that much hungry, he could go eat from the hands of the girl he had been spending his time with. I sat in the living room eating some Sour Patches and watching a movie, and he casually walked in from the bedroom and said, "Babe, you didn't make me anything to eat?" I turned to look at him and said very calmly, "You should allow your girlfriend to feed you tonight. If you leave right on time, you'd still be able to catch up with her." He stood transfixed and looked at me dazed like an expert thief who had just been caught with a bounty. He told me he didn't know anything about what I was speaking of, and did his best to deny it, but there's no escaping it. I told him about the call and the woman that had referred to him as baby. The universe was definitely on my side, as right there his phone rang, and it was that same number. I snatched the phone from his hands and put it on speaker. There she was, telling him she missed him already as soon as I answered, and she enjoyed their time together. I cringed, of course, and hung up the phone when I could not bear to hear one more word of what she had to say. I turned to Luke. I slapped him. Feeling all the hurt and anger overwhelmed me, and he held my hand and I stepped away from him. My eyes were red, and he must have seen this because he tried to grab me when I wanted to walk past and began to apologize to me. I stood there watching as he fruitlessly tried to come up with a reasonable apology and promise of turning a new leaf. I was appalled and made to walk away, and that was when he grabbed my hand and said, "I didn't come clean to you earlier because of your mom." Well, that made me point and, pause and look at him and say, "My mom?" He nodded, and I asked him to explain what he meant. What had my mom got to do with him cheating on me for the past 3 years? And that's when he said it all. When he had earlier started going out with the lady, my mom had caught them in a restaurant together, and I'm here writing this, and I honestly don't know how to feel. Who betrayed me, my husband or my mom? I could not believe my own mother knew from the very beginning and did not even say a word to me. Update number 2. Well, Luke, he's been cheating, and my mom knew about it from the very beginning and said nothing to me. The amount of pain I feel at this moment is enough to make anyone go crazy. I thought I only had Luke to deal with, but turns out I also have my mother to face. What kind of mom does that to her child? I mean, what kind exactly? Luke told me that after Taylor, my mom saw them together that day and he confronted her and he begged her not to say a word to me. My dear mom agreed to the dubious plan and secretly only if she could get whatever she wants from Luke. Luke told me that from then on, my mom never ceased to ask for various things from her son-in-law. Monthly allowance, expensive shoes, designer bags, tickets to exclusive shows, and even trips and cruises. You can call me stupid because I'm the one who's been tricked and who has the highest category of treason going under my nose. I should have thought of it. But would it be normal for one to think that their own mother was teaming up with her husband to make them miserable? Mom started living this lavish lifestyle 3 years ago, and at first I didn't make anything of it, really. I probably thought she got lucky, or Dad knew how to take care of his wife well now. Only I did not know that she was busy blackmailing Luke for the silence and taking whatever she wanted from him. This discovery is one that's made me really sad. I mean, for the amount of time that I've spent being committed to these two people, it's a shock. Now they've chosen to stab me in the back. I stood there angry and tired as my husband told me that he had just recently purchased a luxury apartment for my mom. All I could think about was, what about Dad and this entire story? Where do we put him in it? Well, knowing that kind of mother I have now, it was not difficult for me to know that she must have told him some believable story about being lucky or some sort of increase in her work pay. I know so many people encourage me to confront my husband and get my desired answers from him. Now that I've done so, I must say that I don't feel good and my heart is heavy. What do? I mean, come on. Confront my mom to watch her lie in my face and try to deny it? How did I get so unlucky in this lifetime? I simply cannot believe that I would have been the manipulated person by the two most important people in my life. Update number 3. The only thing Luke has kept on doing is apologizing, and I for one will not take that or even listen to him. I am of the opinion that the only reason he's acting this story is because he got caught. If he did not get caught, he would have just continued in his actions like nothing mattered to him. Everything in our home changed because I made sure that they did. I stopped cooking meals for Luke. He would come in, go to the kitchen, and fetch himself something to eat. It was that way, and it was meant to be that way. I was not his slave, and the time had come for me to finally take the reign of my life and direct it in the path that I wanted it to go. No longer did Luke hold authority over me as his wife. Even though he was still married to me, I hope he enjoys his Lunchables every night because he can't even cook ramen noodles. Yesterday, Luke came home and, well, gave me the news that my mom had just called him and demanded a brand new car. I could not believe the nerve of this woman. She obviously did not know that I already knew about their little plan. Luke narrated to me how my mom kept blackmailing him and how she was wrong too, and all I could do was stare back at him in disdain for even attempting to dismiss his actions by focusing on my mom's actions. But he was not entirely wrong. What kind of a mother would do that to her child? To her daughter? All my life I've been a good daughter to my mom. I was the one who was there when she was sick. I even had her come to stay with us when father traveled and she could not stay alone. I made sure that she had everything that anyone could ever want, and I took care of her. And this is how I get paid? Paid with betrayal and backstabs by the one who should be protecting me from hurt? Nobody told me that my story was going to get this complicated, and I thought things like this only happened in movies. But it's happening to me right now, and I cannot begin to describe the amount of rage that I feel for them. And, well, it is as though the manner in which I fiercely love them is the same manner now which I hate them fiercely. I've decided that I'm going to pay them back on their own coin. I'm going to have my revenge, and I would begin with my mom. My mother, for casting aside her motherly instincts for all the things she could get, and watching me suffer in silence for 3 years. Update number 4. So, my plan was on. I started by telling Luke to play along with me so that I could serve my mom the punishment that she deserved. I wanted to teach her a lesson, and he was to work together with me. Of course, because he was seeking my forgiveness, he was readily agreeing to my plan, and I told him to tell her that he would buy the luxury car for her, as long as she would still not tell me that she was cheating. Mom called Luke in my presence, and I told him to put the phone on speaker so that I could hear her. Mom told Luke to hurry up with the car purchase as she did not have much patience, and would readily call me and expose him if he stalled even for a minute. Listening to that conversation gave me the assurance I needed to know the truth. My mom did know. She was not framed by Luke, she was truly blackmailing him. So, I called my mom right after she dropped the call just to say hello. She was warm and all laughter as always, until now I'm still amazed at how easy it is for people to just double identity. It's super easy for them to be false and dishonest, and yet pretend that they are very opposite. I told Mom I would like to visit her, or if we could grab some coffee together, if it would be fine. She agreed, and we picked a place. What she did not know was that I had a plan in motion just for her. I told Luke to send me all the evidence that he has against her, and he sent me their chats, recorded calls, and conversations of Mom blackmailing him, and threatening to expose him whenever there was a slight delay in his delivery with what she wanted. So I get everything from Luke, having made him believe that I was on his side and his apology was accepted, and I went to see my mom. She was seated in the favored corner of her coffee shop with a cup of coffee waiting for me. She stood up, hugged me, but I turned the hug down, and that's when she noticed that I've been frowning. She asked, "What's wrong, dear?" And in that instant, I brought out my phone and showed her a conversation between her and Luke. "Does this look familiar?" I asked her and smiled, and I could just see the blood drain out of her face as she realized that the gig was up. She was so surprised, and I proceeded to show her other call recordings, voice messages, and chats with which she had sent to Luke to blackmail him. It was then and there I told her that I was going to get her arrested and reveal everything that she did to my own dad. Well, guys, I'm so happy that I'm finally taking steps to stand up for myself. I know some of you may think this is extreme, turning in my mom, but I'm so going to get her arrested, and I can't wait to see the look on my dad's face when I tell him everything. Update number 5. Final update of the story. Well, my story does continue. After the threat I issued to my mom, she would not let me go. She kept begging me to not get her arrested and not to tell my dad about her actions, and well, guess who took full advantage of the situation? Me! I asked her for every single thing my husband had ever given to her in return for my own silence. I'm talking the gold jewelry, the expensive cars, the keys to the apartments, and all the money in her account. Well, I could not have been abandoned and left to suffer in silence all these years, only for me to not get what was actually rightfully mine. I mean, the money, it had to be partly mine. Yeah, fine, Luke worked and he did pretty well with his job, but I also did well and gave him a lot of time. Anyways, my mom handed over every single thing that she had ever given to me, and the clothes, designer bags, and Mom had blackmailed Luke so much that she had a lot of goodies already. I mean, that was like 20% of Luke's wealth, and that was definitely a lot. Once I was done with collecting everything from Mom, I moved on to my revenge plan number 2. That would be to get Luke to pay for his deeds. I filed a divorce and gave them the divorce papers to sign. Not only that, the divorce made me entitled to 50% of his wealth. Having another 50% with the initial 20% gotten from my mom made me 70% richer. Luke had done what he was not supposed to, and that brought out the confident woman in me. The woman who cowered all these years and had not gotten up to speak up for herself, and I'm so glad about that. The next thing I did was to report him in his workplace. Yes, no company deserves someone who's two-timing and unfaithful. If he was unfaithful to his legal wife, then how could they vouch for anything he did for the company? Well, he might even lose his job. But this is his business, and that is what he deserves. After all the things ensued, Luke filed a case against Mom for blackmailing, but guess what? Well, see where it goes from then to now. Well, the very last thing I did, and I believe the icing on the cake, was to expose Mom to my dad. I told my dad everything that she's been up to and how she knew that Luke was cheating on me but said absolutely nothing, and how she blackmailed Luke to get everything she wanted from him. Of course, Dad was disappointed. He even planned to divorce her. Well, as I speak, Mom would be facing charges for blackmailing and extortion of money, and I could not be any happier. I'm finally going to get the justice I deserve. So some of the comments were basically stating that they think OP went too far for exposing Mom, and in the fact that she wants to send her to jail, she wants her to face all the charges for blackmailing, and she also revealed everything to her father. I'd say about half the commenters were saying, you know what, at the end of the day, actually sending her to prison is crazy, it's your own mom. But there was plenty of other people that were saying, are you guys insane? Did you not listen to the same story we did? I mean, the mom was the reason behind all this. I want to know where you guys fall with that. Let me know your exact thoughts, opinions, everything down below in the comment section. My name's Mr. Reddito, and I narrate stories like this every day. So, if you like animated, dramatic videos, go ahead, hit that subscribe button, guys. I'll see you tomorrow, and of course, just remember, in this cruel world, it's cool to be kind. Peace.